I was at a crossroads. For the first time in my life, I had the thought that I wanted to go to sleep and never wake up. I was experiencing firsthand what it truly feels like to be depressed. I still remember that day. It was December 2017. I was in my client's office. It was 1:30 p.m. and I had no will to live. I told my manager I was sick and I called the emergency number on my insurance card. I went to the hospital, saw a psychologist, and then they made me take a depression test. I scored a 22 out of 27 on that test, which indicated severe depression. So how does it really feel to be depressed? Contrary to popular belief, depression isn't feeling sad or blue. What depression actually is feeling nothing at all. I truly felt nothing and complete emptiness. I couldn't feel joy or happiness, nor could I feel sadness or anger. It was complete apathy. Things that used to give me a lot of joy, like excursions, activities, eating good food, hanging out with friends, no longer gave me any pleasure. I felt like there was no joy or hope for life anymore. I had super low energy. It felt like I couldn't even go through a normal day. Some days I had trouble even getting out of bed. It felt like there was a gray veil over my entire life. I felt suffocated and I felt like there was nowhere I can go. Even at social events, other people looked like they were having fun, but I felt like I was alone the whole time. I would tell friends and family about my depression and they would tell me things like, suck it up, or your life's not that hard, come hang out more, just feel better. But it felt like they didn't understand me at all. It was like there was a leech sucking the life force out of me and there was nothing I could do about it. And this is what depression feels like: complete emptiness, hopelessness, and apathy for life. I truly felt that there was no difference between being alive and being dead. When I was younger, I was full of joy and excitement. I was so excited to start the day and do fun things. So I'm not entirely sure what the cause of my depression was, but at this point I realized that all the joy from my life was gone. Whether it's traumatic events, family patterns, genetics, chronic illnesses, or behavioral patterns, depression is a very real disease and can be caused by many things. Traumatic events like the loss of a loved one, broken relationships, trouble in family, huge accidents, or big life changes, especially during childhood, can cause depression. I also read up on studies that claim that depression can even be a genetic disease passed down through families. Whether that's true or not, as a child grows up and sees depressive behavior in his family, he might be tempted to mimic that behavior as well. Depression can also be caused by chronic illnesses or injuries. Environmental factors may play a role as well. Maybe the place where you are has low sunlight, or it's raining all the time, or everyone around you also displays depressive behavior. Hormonal imbalance is also known to cause depression. That's why you see middle-aged men developing depression, because their testosterone level drops as they age. This is also why we see postpartum depression and depression in pregnant women, because their hormones are all over the place. Substances like alcohol and weed may also cause depression. And this is a chicken and egg situation. When I felt truly empty inside, the temporary relief and escape of getting drunk or high was very appealing. But what I didn't know is that both alcohol and marijuana are depressants. And the reason they're called depressants is that they can actually cause depression as well. I also think that habitual negative thinking causes depression. If you're someone who tends to think negatively of the worst case scenarios, have low self-esteem, or view yourself as a victim, depression can also form. Whatever the case may be, depression becomes a chemical imbalance where our bodies can no longer release dopamine and serotonin regularly. And this chemical imbalance is very real. But not all hope is lost. Since depression is developed, it can also be reversed and cured. Today, I can confidently say that I'm much better. My depression has subsided and I've come a very long way. I've tried all the traditional methods and my own methods to eventually get to a place now where I feel like depression no longer has a grip on my life. So the traditional methods we've all heard of, counseling or psychotherapy. If you've never done counseling before, it's not some shrink or someone that you pay telling you what to do. A good counselor is someone who facilitates your inner dialogue for you. And by having someone to talk to while exploring our inner dialogue, we're able to see our own patterns and gain insights on our own psyche. And with psychotherapy, we can discover what thought patterns that we have or what root causes may have contributed to our depression. But with psychotherapy and counseling, we only get insights. We don't get an actual cure or treatment. Antidepressants. For a long time, I was scared to take antidepressants because I thought that only weak people take them. But in 2017, when my depression was so severe, I took antidepressants for 8 months. And the changes I noticed in myself was I had a lot more energy than before. Energy that I needed at that time to just get through my day, but also get me to my counseling sessions so that I could learn more about myself. And it's because antidepressants like Zoloft promote serotonin release that our bodies forgot how to do on its own. But antidepressants are more of a band-aid for the wound. The surgical cure for the wound is a lot deeper. So here are some of the non-conventional things that I've done to help my depression. The first thing that comes to mind is exercise. When I was severely depressed, I made sure that I worked out 6 days a week because exercise promotes the release of endorphins, dopamine, and serotonin. When we move our bodies, we actually feel better. It also gave me a sense of accomplishment. Going to the gym and getting a hard workout done made me feel less guilty and worthless than I did had I not done it. I also fell in love with soreness because I loved the feeling of pain and being sore instead of feeling nothing at all. Another thing that comes to mind is martial arts. Martial arts for me is like exercise on steroids. So I practice Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. And because these are combat martial arts with live sparring, it forced me to not be apathetic. Because during an intense sparring session or a roll, if you're apathetic, you're gonna get punched in the face or submitted. Meditation. In 2019, I did a meditation retreat in northern Thailand, and I learned the method of Vipassana meditation, which is focusing on the inhale and exhale of breathing. And what this does is it quiets your mind to stop overthinking of things and actually disrupt your mental patterns. It also gave me the ability to detach from my thoughts and to observe them from a distance. So when I went about my normal day and depressive thoughts would come into my mind, I was able to detach, observe those thoughts, and determine if they were serving me or not. And if they were not serving me, I was then able to dismiss them faster and move on from those thoughts. Changing my environment. I grew up outside of Washington, D.C. in the suburbs. And that environment was depressive in itself. Everyone aspired to get hired by one of these big companies or government contractors, work a 9 to 5, buy a house, raise 2.5 kids and a dog, and have that white picket fence life. But to me, this never appealed as a lifestyle that I wanted. Also, the environment itself was a bunch of cookie cutter houses spread far apart, residential zones and commercial zones. So in 2019, I also left all that behind and started traveling full time and living abroad. And by traveling to over 30 different countries and living in 3 continents, I found that certain places fit my values better. And today I choose to live in places where I feel happier and more aligned. I also changed my social circle. So growing up in the Washington, D.C. suburbs, I was surrounded by small talk, complaining about work, and gossip. This was the bulk of conversations with the people that I was surrounded by. But in my travels, I was also able to foster new relationships where now I only spend time with people who talk about productive things, and I changed my social circle. Quitting alcohol and marijuana. When I cut alcohol and weed out of my life, I noticed that my depressive symptoms decreased significantly. Even though I wasn't able to get that temporary escape anymore, I didn't have the lows that followed days after drinking and smoking anymore. A healthier diet. Before, I would eat a lot of processed foods, sugars. I just ate like a normal person. But what I didn't notice was the crashes that I experienced when I ate these types of food. Sure, eating something like a pizza, pancakes, or McDonald's gives pleasure for a few minutes, but after that temporary pleasure comes the feeling of inflammation and literal sugar crashes a few hours later. So I noticed that this unhealthy diet was also contributing to my low energy and depressive symptoms throughout my day. And now by switching to a whole food diet, where I eat things like hearty steaks, fresh fruits, and vegetables, I see that my energy sustains much longer and I don't get those crashes anymore. Practicing gratitude. So gratitude is not just this emotion that we feel at certain times. I found that it's a practice. So every morning and evening, I have a gratitude journal where I write 3 things that I'm grateful for. And the challenge is to not repeat the same things every single day, and to force my brain to creatively think more positive by coming up with new things that I'm grateful for. These things helped treat my depression, of course, but the real change in me happened last year when I discovered the true way to combat depression. It was by getting clear on my personal purpose and mission that's bigger than me. You see, even though depression is this horrible disease that saps our life energy, I found that it's actually just a symptom of a deeper misalignment. And that misalignment for me was that I was living a life that was not aligned with my true mission, my true values, and who I am on the inside. But by finding my true purpose, getting clarity on it, and reorienting my life to be more in line with that purpose, I saw a lot of these depressive symptoms completely disappear. And now today, I'm at a point where I can wake up in the morning feeling excited about my life and to get started moving and working towards my purpose and mission. It's not enough just to know your purpose and your values. You need to reorient your life in order to be aligned with that purpose. I'm not saying that this is a small feat. It takes a lot of work, and it took all of me to make these changes. But if I can make these changes, I know that anyone else experiencing depression can also too. If you're struggling with depression, I want to let you know that you're not alone. I also want you to know that it's not hopeless. You can make the right decisions and the right changes and get better. I hope that this video helped you understand what depression truly feels like. If you found this video to be helpful, then please share it with someone else who may be struggling with depression. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for more content like this on mental health and mindset. As always, see you in the next one.